Welcome to the presentation of the paper on sustainability of ICT hardware procurement in Switzerland, a status quo analysis of the public procurement sector. The presentation is structured into three parts. First, global reference of ICT hardware procurement. Second, status quo, public procurement of ICT hardware in Switzerland. Third, sustainable procurement targets for ICT hardware. But before I begin with the content of our paper, I'm going to introduce our Research Center for Digital Sustainability at the University of Bern. At our Research Center, we handle all typical kinds of stuff you know from a university, lectures, research, etc. Regarding public procurement, we have a special focus. Besides our research activities, we offer a further education program for practitioners, and we meet once a year at our ICT procurement conference. Further, our research group developed two platforms to bring transparency and intelligence into public procurement: Beschaffungsstatistik.ch and IntelliProcure.ch. The analysis we are going to talk about is part of a bigger project on how can public procurement become more sustainable. Looking at all levels of procurement, federal and cantonal, as at municipal level, we are going to talk about how can public procurement become more sustainable. This is done on the basis of the fact that public procurement accounts for 41 billion Swiss francs annual expenses, and that the adding of ecological and social criteria in public procurement could foster the needed significant change we are looking for in sustainable development. This is also covered by the fact that in Switzerland we become a new procurement law that gets enacted in 2021 that requires sustainability criteria for all public tenders. The goal of the project is the measuring of sustainability criteria in public tender documents for several sectors, data and method, crawling and refinement of procurement data using Elasticsearch, a full text search engine. The project team consists of three groups. Two groups are located at the University of Lugano, and the other group is located at the University of Bern. You see at the right the two guys who have carried out this analysis. Now we start with the content of our paper on sustainability of ICT hardware. First, we explain why ICT procurement and hardware procurement in general are so important. To start with, the global relevance of ICT is discussed, and here especially the ecological relevance. First, dematerialization. ICT is identified as a key technology to tackle global sustainability challenges, as stated by the UNEP International Resource Panel in 2011. The next significant point is how has the ICT sector to be set up meeting the Paris Climate Treaty. And this is especially talked about with a special issue by the IPCC in 2018. Further, the UN SDGs cover some problems like the worldwide material consumption that had reached to 92.1 billion tons in 2017, accelerating each year since the year 2000. These are the global problems that we face or hope to get tackled with ICT procurement, but we face some problems in reality that For example, energy efficiency potential that are brought by ICT procurement are not getting into practice because of the rebound effects we face. There's paper by Hilti and Bisa that handle the case for Switzerland. So overall, the question is to be told, can public agencies act as a role model in ICT hardware procurement? This is the key question we want to ask, and we see if it is possible at the end of this presentation. Looking at the ecological relevance of ICT procurement, looking at the hard facts, global ICT energy demand from 2010 to 2025. In 2015, so far 2,300 terawatt hours were consumed, and in 2018, already 3,000 terawatt hours have been consumed for digital energy consumption. This means with this consumption, 2,000 megatons of CO2 has been emitted. A share of 4% on global CO2 emissions. This equals the share of civil aviation. In case the consumption rates keep at the current level, in 2025, the ICT-induced CO2 emissions will represent 8% of the global emissions. This will be this equal share then for road transport. In case you can remember that there's a question how to meet the Paris Climate Treaty, this would mean that there has to be a limit in the development of energy consumption from 2017 till 2020. The global annual growth rate was up to 8% in energy consumption, and from 2020 global annual growth rates are even higher. They are higher than 10% each year. So to get a scenario or idea what has to happen to reach the Paris Agreement, we have to reach the so-called sobriety scenario as indicated from the SHIFT project. Means that the share of ICT-induced CO2 emissions could in maximum reach 5%. And from the current predicted scenarios as shown before, we are on the path to 7 or 8% ICT-induced CO2 emissions till 2025. Looking on how this energy demand is composed, now we look at the blue part of this diagram on the left side, the production side. The consumption of global ICT energy demand in 2017, 45% was used to produce new ICT hardware. Looking at the right side and the development of ICT devices, we see that from 2017 till 2022, we see a soar of ICT hardware devices from 18 to 30 billion devices according to the Cisco forecast. At the next slide, we look at the orange part of the diagram left. The use phase means the use of existing ICT hardware that is worldwide used to consume videos, gaming, voice over IP device services whatsoever. On the right side, you see that this services in global soar 26% per year in the period from 2017 to 2022. And so far, 55% of the global ICT energy demand is used for the use of existing devices, and the increase of data traffic is going to triple in this 5-year period from 1,500 exabyte per year to more than 4,500 exabyte per year. Just a hint on this diagram on the right side there. The graph shows exabyte per month, so you have to multiply this figures with the amount of month in a year. Switching to the next slide, we transfer the products that are used for ICT hardware. We can identify them for public procurement into 5 groups. On the left side, we have 4 groups: personal computer, monitors, etc., like a bundle for workstations. Then we have notebooks, tablets, computers, second, third, projectors, fourth, smartphones, and voice over IP phones. They all have the characteristic that when we look on the environmental hotspot, the manufacture phase is the phase to concentrate the environmental burden, and this is because the manufacture phase incorporates 90% of the total energy demand throughout the product life cycle. Contrary, product group number 5, data centers and servers, there the environmental hotspot is in the use phase, so there it's important to measure the energy usage efficiency or the power usage efficiency to define the level of environmental sustainability. To get somewhat closer, on the next slide, we compare manufacture versus the use phase using the data from the Shift project. Just as an example, there are many other data sets or lifecycle inventories where you can get these impressions. And the slide on the top, you see different, or the range for different hardware product groups like laptop, smartphone, representing the groups 1 to 4 with the variation. For example, laptop 13 kilowatt per year and in the maximum 100 kilowatt hours per year, compared to data centers with more than 6.4 million kilowatt hours per year. Contrary, then we have the chart in the bottom, where we on the one hand side see the primary energy that is used or needed to compose such device, and the corresponding global greenhouse gases that are emitted. And further, also have in mind, besides the energy that is used or needed, we need to dig some metals out of the ground like gallium, indium, etc. to build these parts. This slide just show you that it's really important to have a certain knowledge about product life cycle and the hotspots, where to get an idea where the environmental problems are settled, and that this is one part of the whole sustainability discourse. We're now going into details with the second part, the status quo. How does the public procurement of ICT hardware in Switzerland works in the context of sustainability? The scope of our analysis is showing an in-depth analysis of ICT hardware tenders for the years 2018 and 2019 from the 5 product groups we have seen before. We have an in-depth look for the 3 groups that are most promising, also regarding the global relevance: personal computers, server, and smartphones. The assessment is done on sustainability criteria per product group, and they are in the end compared to the proposed criteria, the proposed sustainability criteria by international key actors. Now at the next slide, maybe you can remember the 5 procurement groups before. We now check how we now translated the hardware products in public procurement using the common procurement vocabulary called ZPV. At this slide, you see the scope of data that we're looking for, means the overall numbers of ICT hardware product groups that are found on the Swiss National Procurement Tender Platform called SIMA. This is to justify the range where we could find procurement activities on ICT hardware for the years 2018 and 2019. So having a closer look at the slides, you see in the year 2018 and 19, public agencies have turned out 116 invitations on tenders for the 3 product groups we're talking about. 17 of these procurement activities mention sustainability criteria, and this means 15% of all tenders only have sustainability criteria available. Out of these 5 of 61 tenders, 8% of the tenders have sustainability criteria for personal computers. Servers means 10 out of 43, and 23% have sustainable criteria, and for the smartphones, 2 out of 12 tenders, means 70% mention sustainability criteria. Further, we decide 2 levels of sustainability. Out of these 17 tenders we found, 8 uses basic sustainability criteria, and 9 tender use comprehensive sustainability criteria. The difference is basic sustainability criteria only mentions some kinds of sustainability, but not accounts that's or weighting the sustainability on the outcome of the tender, and comprehensive sustainability is accounted or weighted for the overall result of the tender, so it influences the sustainability, influences the outcome of the tender. For example, I'm now showing you an overview of one fact sheet of the personal computer tender, a comprehensive tender, where on central federal level, tender is looking for a vast amount of computer devices more than 100,000 devices are procured in this specific tender. We see on the left side of this fact sheet that sustainability is weighted with 15% as a awarding criteria for Umwelt management, means environmental services, or in addition, we see that sustainability is awarded for energy efficiency, also with additional 15%, mentioning also labels like Energy Star or Energy Star, especially for displays. On the right hand side of this fact sheet, we see more information. This is that we have further digged into the tender documents and found even more sustainability criteria. Besides awarding criteria, we found selection criteria and some labels that were mentioned without any influence. But overall, this is a very good and popular tender with a high level of sustainability. Compared to that, we now show or have a look at cantonal tender, just only presenting basic sustainability measures, as you see on the left side of this spreadsheet. There's only life cycle management mentioned, but no influence on the tender at all. Now we're switching the product group, switching to server. Here we have a tender on cantonal level, where we have also comprehensive weightings, like sustainability is weighted in general with 5%, and in the tender document, the selection criteria is reflecting on the social criteria of equal payment and non-discrimination for men and women. On the next slide, we're going to have a smartphone tender from the city of Geneva. It's on municipal level, where we also find social and environmental sustainability measures as awarding criteria, and on the right hand side we find much more explicit sustainable criteria on the tender documents defining the level of the sustainability that is asked in this tender. So we leave now the specific part for the status quo and we come to the third part, where we are going to bring together the amount and of ecological and social sustainability criteria to compare the level of sustainability in Switzerland regarding the required sustainability measures by key actors in this field. To start with, we are going to show basic ecological sustainability measures. On the left hand side, there you find all the extracted ecological criteria that we found in all the tenders. On the right hand side, the requirements by key actors. See, now and at the basic level, you find general and technical specific criteria. Not to be astonished, on the right side, there are no expectations by key actors because they are looking for comprehensive ecological sustainability. On the left hand side, you find the wording public procurement used to describe the tenders. Switching to the comprehensive ecological sustainability criteria, we see that also we have two different criteria: level ICT specific phrases and product group specific criteria, means explicit phrases where you can identify the level of sustainability for a specific product. We see on the right-hand side the requirements by the key actors are more dense, or we find more phrases and not so much mentions by the procurer in Switzerland. So this could be better. We could find more if all requirements would be met by the public procurement agencies. On the next slides, we are going to talk about the social sustainability criteria. There we see that on the left-hand side, procurement agencies are very much aware about the working conditions in general, means the working conditions in Switzerland. On the right-hand side, you see the requirements by actors, by the key actors, and they map more or less with the left-hand side, looking at comprehensive social sustainability. We see social requirements by key actors are defined for working conditions in the manufacture phase, means a raw material extraction or manufacture of products that are not taking place in Switzerland or in Europe. You see that the expectations from the key actors on the right-hand side are not met by any of the tenders from the public procurement agencies in Switzerland, and this we can call a blind spot. There we found no good examples. To switch to a good example, we make an excursus to the best-in-class example that we define for social criteria. It's brought out by PAIR. PAIR is a Swiss purchasing consortium in the French-speaking part. They have joined, for example, an NGO called Electronics Watch, where they have the opportunity to check the supply chain for all the problems that may occur for the product they want to procure. Looking at one of the tenders, and so this is the reason they are not in the analysis which we have done so far. It took place in 2017, and in 4 batches they were looking for 33,000 workstations, 70,000 computers, 12,000 notebooks, and 2,500 laser printers. The criteria they are going to ask in their invitation on tender are ecological criteria, social criteria. Both are weighted at least with 20% on the total criteria of the junction. In case you remember before, this is really high at this time, and with this percentage of 20%, this is really above average. And in addition, they joined the NGO Electronics Watch to ensure the transparent access of the ICT supply chain. On the right-hand side, you see all the documents where they are going to ask for this, their code of conduct regarding a potential person who is handling their request. Then, coming to the end of this presentation, next research steps of this project. From this analysis, we want to go further and apply natural language processing to analyze the tender documents we've gathered and further to automatically label them. Then further, we want to represent the evolution of sustainability measures per sector over time, means monitoring the percentage of tenders mentioning sustainability criteria and further the qualitative level of sustainability measures. On the level of this project, what we have done for ICT hardware, we want to turn out for the construction sector, road transport, food and catering, as well as for textiles. And in general, we want to monitor the procurement activities on the federal, canton, and municipal level to report the progress towards international sustainability goals. For example, the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals and the Paris Climate Treaty. This was the presentation of our paper. If you want to have more information, you're welcome to read our paper, and we say thank you and hope you read it from your way. You're interesting in this specific topic. Thanks.